Welcome to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust meeting of Thursday, June 8, 2023. It's 9 a.m. and we're in Memorial Hall in Town Hall at 34 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass. This meeting will be recorded and broadcast by Westborough TV. I'd like to call to order, and we have a couple of minutes to be approved for May 11th and June 2nd.
Which is actually May 19th.
Is it May 19th?
Yeah, because the meeting was postponed.
Oh, right.
No.
All right, so May 19th, I have two slight modifications on page, they're both on page 2. And one is at the last bullet before 1150, spelling my name.
Ooh,
I know it rhymes, it's like pain.
no, sorry, that was cut and paste error from the transcript.
Okay, and down at the very bottom, just before 1250, adjourn, I think it's after providing
An overview.
an overview instead of and overview. Those were the only two things I picked up for the for that date.
There was something, there were a couple like grammatical things, but I don't like, it didn't affect the content. So I'm good with.
Okay.
Okay,
I have motion with the amendments. Can I
Motion
hear-
to approve the minutes as
Okay.
presented,
With amendments?
as amended.
Okay,
Second,
okay. You need a roll call?
yep. So roll call vote. Nancy?
Armitage, yes.
Hank?
Roush, yes?
Ed?
Bain, yes.
Storm, yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
Okay, good. All right, moving on then to the June 2nd. I didn't have anything that I noted on that, on those minutes.
Anyone else have anything?
I was
Nothing.
not in attendance, so I have nothing to comment.
Move to approve.
Move to approve?
Second.
Okay.
Roll call vote. Nancy?
Armitage, yes.
Hank?
Roush, yes?
Ed?
Bain, yes.
Kate?
Storm, yes.
And Edinburgh, yes.
Okay, good. All right, moving on, we have appointment of a trustee to the Community Preservation Committee. We mentioned this at one of our last meetings. This would be somebody who would be on the Community Preservation Committee whose responsibility is to take money, which there is nothing yet until, I guess, taxes begin next year.
Yeah, till fiscal year 24.
24,
So start collecting.
and then they will start to accumulate some monies by, per the bylaw that we adopted. We are obligated, responsible for having a member on that committee, along with, I think there were about 8 others. I think
Yes.
it's a committee of 9. To discuss and then vote on the disposition of community preservation funds. Our committee automatically gets 10% of the money that's received, and I think there's some other percentages that are automatically allocated, but then the balance is for discussion of various projects that would be brought up before the CPA. Or for CPA money. Looking for an interested party? I'll do it. I'll do it for,
Okay.
I don't know if there's terms on it. I think there may be. I'll take a first term.
I mean, for appointments from other committees, it's usually a 1-year term
Okay.
and reappoint so that, because other committee memberships change.
Oh, right.
and stuff like that,
Yeah,
so-
just because of that
Yeah.
fact, yeah. So,
So I move we appoint Ed Bain as the representative
approve
committee
if
to
you
the
need
CPA
approval.
committee for a 1-year term.
Seconded?
Discussion? Thank you for taking one for the team, Ed. Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
any discussion? No, there was little.
No, thank you for,
Okay,
No.
do we need a vote, or?
we do. So, Nancy?
Yes. Big thumbs up.
Excellent. Hank?
Roush, yes.
Bain, yes.
Storm, a resounding yes.
Edinburgh, yes.
What a team. Feel the love.
So motion passes 5-0, 5 being present.
By the way, Ed, CPA committees are already being criticized if you read today's Boston Globe.
Oh, thanks,
There's an interesting
I'm
article.
sorry, you're out of order. That was supposed to be put up under discussion.
Okay. No problems. No. Okay, so,
It may have swung the vote. Okay, moving on.
okay, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can introduce this one if you want.
Yes, if you can, Alan, on
Okay.
the Girls Responsibility Housing Partnership. You sent out
So I,
in your packet a discussion point.
yeah.
No.
So, just for the viewing public and those watching the recording, on May 23rd, Ed and I met with Town Manager Christy Williams, Interim Town Planner Jim Robbins, and our Community Development Director Fred Leonardo to discuss the best way of efficiently managing several tasks and responsibilities related to affordable housing. There are a few issues that have, come up that we were looking to respond to and address. One, the Select Board has struggled in appointing and maintaining the Housing Partnership Committee. That committee has a long, successful track record. However, the longtime chair retired almost a year ago, and the committee really has not been able to reorganize and function. At this point, the committee does not have enough members for a quorum. The second issue is improving the town's ability to respond to SHI-related actions required by DHCD. And the third is to improve coverage of SHI monitoring tasks currently performed by the town planner. And so we discussed a number of roles and responsibilities, and I'll walk, through them here and really, the goal today is to start the conversation. We don't need to make any definitive decisions today. But everything I'm talking about is, our phone just rang. Okay. Nope, I'll hang up. Okay. Is intended to, and we don't have the folks from Westborough High School here. Okay. Is within the scope of our declaration of trust and is allowed under Mass General Law for affordable housing trusts, although one item might require an amendment to the declaration of trust in the bylaw. And so the first up is the Housing Partnership Committee. The Housing Partnership Committee by town charter is appointed by the Select Board. As I mentioned, it's been struggling. The mission of the Housing Partnership Committee is to encourage continued availability of well-designed, well-built, affordable homes so that people of all economic levels can find a home in Westborough. More specifically, the HPC assists developer through the permitting and certification process when affordable housing is included in a development. The town's Business One Stop and many of the recent changes, such as online and expedited permitting processes, provide much of the permitting assistance needed. But some assistance and advocacy is still needed and could be used to encourage developers to increase the percentage of affordable units, particularly if the HPC helps connect the developer with assistance with state and federal funding programs for that. So the suggested action, and there are other trusts within the Commonwealth that do this, where the trust or subcommittee of the trust becomes the town's housing partnership committee. If it's a subcommittee, then the trust would be the appointing authority. It would operate, the committee would be comprised of some trustees and some residents, the exact mix to be figured out. And then the housing partnership would meet and function on its own schedule and coordinate with town departments as needed. One of the things that would be beneficial that the town, departments are looking for is representation with knowledge of affordable housing at the business one-stop meetings when projects come in that have a residential component or involve residential development at all, so that affordable housing is always on the table and part of the consideration for projects as they come through the process.
And I think can educate, like sometimes we may see somebody converting something and we may then want to bring up, you may want to consider some tax benefits, things like that. It's
Right.
it's educational as well as just a monitoring function and the
yeah.
system
Yeah.
function, so that we don't miss out on something that might be in our interest.
Right.
Go ahead.
Now, this would require a change to the town charter, we think. It's unclear if the town charter would let the select board delegate the appointing authority or by vote, or whether we'd have to go to town meeting to make that change. And then it probably would be best, if we specifically added a section to the declaration of trust in Article 17 of the town bylaws, explicitly stating that the trust will operate as the Housing Partnership Committee, as a committee of the whole, or by creating a subcommittee for that purpose. And that could even leave it open to how we as the trust want to do it.
I think the town needs to, I believe the town needs to simplify whenever possible the numbers of committees that have somewhat overlapping responsibilities. And if we subsume the responsibilities of Housing Partnership Committee, that will help simplify things and minimize the confusion for third parties who come and look at who do I talk to, and you get a list of 5 people, 5 different committees. Just clarify it, makes it easy, and the workload at this point in time is not onerous. Some point in the future, we may need to form, we can form a subcommittee in the future if we need to, but my sense is right now, the workload is not onerous.
I was curious about, like, how often the one-stop shop, like, what kind of responsibility is that for
So the one,
that would be appointed to that?
so the one-stop, the business one-stop is weekly
Okay.
on Wednesdays,
Okay,
but we would only be needed when there was a residential development
okay.
or a mixed-use development
So do we have any idea,
come
like,
in. So most of what goes to the business one-stop is commercial
okay,
or commercial industrial development.
okay,
So it would be occasional. We may also be at times just approached by the planning board,
Right.
right,
Right.
to get involved or to assist
Mm-hmm.
a developer with, who isn't needing the business one-stop, but is just going through the normal planning board process.
Yep. okay.
And if, the thought is, if the workload was too much for us as a trustees to do it as committees as a whole, we'd create a subcommittee, we can solicit residents.
Right.
You could have several people, each of which who
Yeah.
could attend some of the meetings or participate.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of just adding to Hank's point here, that it doesn't sound like it's a huge lift here. And so, with our current small numbers, it sounds like we probably can handle it, but I think that there's also, because of doing this, we have the opportunity to increase our numbers here too. So to diffuse the workload a little bit. My other question was, I assume in the formation of the trust, the original trust, that the reason why the Pulte funds weren't appointed to the Housing Partnership Committee was because they cannot hold finances, right?
Correct.
So that's why the trust was created. So in essence, like, there was no reason why the Housing Partnership, besides being able to hold funds, couldn't have done trust work. So it's really, it makes sense to combine the two. So legally and all of the things, like, we can just do this work together as under one name. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, at the point where we were forming the trust, when there was a working group that was investigating whether this was a good idea for the community, we made multiple attempts to contact the partnership committee, and they were inactive at that point and had been inactive for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we considered assuming the responsibilities, but really decided not to do that because the committee just wasn't, we just weren't ready to do that. But at this point, having two committees is not really beneficial to the community.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, so there's general support for that.
Okay, good. Why don't we
Okay.
move on to the next one?
Yeah, the second is right of first refusal for subsidized housing inventory units. So when a privately owned affordable housing unit is placed on the market, there's a process with DHCD that sets the allowable, the maximum allowed selling price of things of that nature. The town by law has a period of right of first refusal. That currently sits with the select board. The thought is that given the trust, given that we have funds, given that we may want to acquire, renovate, repurpose, that the trust take on the responsibility to review rights of first refusal and either be delegated the right to exercise the right of first refusal. We could also then make a recommendation to the select board if we say, well, it's not for us, but the town might want to do it, or we recommend the town do it. Or execute the waiver and say we waive it.
I think an example would be if their property that was affordable came up, that we saw as a possibility of, let's say we saw there was enough land or other reasons that, well, maybe we could put a duplex there or make it into a two-family or do something else with the property. This would at least give us the opportunity to throw our hat in the ring first.
Right.
That's primarily the reason for getting this right of first refusal. Whether we do it or not, who knows? But it gives us a little bit more flexibility.
I'm aware of other trusts who have this responsibility, and they have on call a consultant to help them with it when needed. Generally, one or two trusts that I'm familiar with, they generally have a consultant on call to help with SHI issues and with right of first refusal issues, because sometimes there's some real technical, and dealing with DHCD often requires someone who has experience with it.
Right.
And we may do that same thing.
Yeah,
This just gives us,
When the time comes that you need help, you want to have somebody
Right.
on, you want to have somebody that you know who you're going to use.
right, you have somebody on fast dial, speed dial with that, so.
Okay.
I see this as, I don't know, open before I speak.
I think this is great. And I also think our trust always has a select board appointee, right?
Yes.
So there's always a connection to the select board, so
Yep.
it's not like the select board is completely off the table here. They're completely within, yes, exactly. So I think this is great.
Okay.
Okay. So
Nancy, yeah, any comments?
No, I agree with everything you're saying.
excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
Next is approval of SHI refinancing and capital improvements. This is more of a clerical operation. So when private owners go to refinance their mortgage or get a home equity line of credit, or they want to make what's known as a qualified capital improvement, the town is required to review and approve the financing and/or improvements, the numbers. Typically, the owner submits paperwork to DHCD. DHCD does the paperwork. They validate that it's within the limits and that it fits with the rules. It then comes to us for final review. And our role on the select board, when we've done this, it's predominantly, did the check from DHCD cover all the points? And if so, there's a sign off and it goes in. For those, a qualified capital improvement is owners of affordable housing, certain capital improvements, they can go to DHCD for grants or no interest loans. If it's a grant or there's a balance on the loan, if it's been pre-qualified as a capital improvement, when they go to sell the property, DHCD will add the cost of that improvement to the selling price.
So if somebody
As a
wanted to, let's
recoup
say, build a garage because there wasn't a garage associated with the property. they're
Probably
now-
not.
I
That-
probably would not.
They
that
would
probably-
not do
No,
that?
replacing a furnace that breaks,
Fine.
roof repairs to prevent leaks. It's about preserving the livability
Okay.
of the property.
They don't want to have
So it's not,
significant
it's not
step-ups.
remodeling, it's not you need new carpeting, it doesn't cover that. That's not a qualified improvement.
Okay.
DHCD has a set of rules about these things.
About, yeah,
I
they don't
won't say
want
they're
to,
clear, but they're as clear as any state
Law.
regulatory authority gets.
Yeah,
would it cover things like, okay, I want to redo my kitchen, put up new
No.
cabinets and stuff?
no, that's,
So it's not,
that's,
unless, yeah,
no, it wouldn't cover that unless the existing condition was a safety hazard,
right.
right?
But the
It's
owner
just
can still do
insulation.
that.
The owner can still do it,
Yeah,
but it's just not
doesn't need to go through
qualified.
this process.
Insulation, things like that, they might?
So insulation, yes. Roof repairs, leaky windows, yes. There's a program specifically for heating and air conditioning. I'm aware of one unit, when they redid the heating system, DHCD included the replacement of the garage door opener because they felt it was a safety issue.
Yeah, that was.
The emergency
Yeah, I knew, I remember.
sensors weren't working anymore. So it's pretty limited in scope what you can do.
Okay.
But again, it's a paperwork thing that comes through. It's a second set of eyes that
That somebody has to do at the municipal level.
that the amount refinancing isn't more than the value of the property per, at the affordable level, that the interest rate is within law, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Next is the validation of the SHI list from DHCD. So each year, DHCD provides the town with a subsidized housing inventory. The list is currently reviewed by the town planner and the community development director, who request clarifications and corrections as needed. DHCD does that work in alphabetical order by town. So being a W, we often don't have a corrected list until sometime in the September to November timeframe each year. And so the suggestion is that the trust take on this responsibility once the current corrections and clarifications are complete.
Yeah, there's about, I think, I want to say about 20 locations.
Yeah.
Not units, but locations, because, like a building would be considered one. Jim has a pretty good list. Jim Rogers has a pretty good list. I looked at it. A number of them are, if you will, outsourced to companies, if you will, that do the validation by law, it's part of
Somebody
their.
Make sure they follow the rules.
Yeah, make sure, so that, it's not that we have to do all 20, but there's at least half a dozen to 10 or so that we might be responsible for. It's, I think in our interest, if for no other reason, that we're really on top of what our, percentage, at least of SHI units, how many are out there, and it also includes, what's in perpetuity, what's going to expire when,
Right.
et cetera. So, our ability to have sort of a good view, insight,
Right.
oversight of that process, I think is
Would just make it
beneficial.
It would make it consistent, and with the changeover, with the new
With the new
planning
then
director
now's the
coming
time
in.
to do it,
Good time.
before Jim goes.
So next is SHI rent monitoring. The town is responsible for monitoring affordable rents at 3 developments. The residences, Westborough Station, Ellington Estates, formerly Avalon on Flanders Road, and the apartment complex on Beach Street. These property owners annually submit their proposed affordable rents. The town planner historically then works to validate that the proposed rents are within the HUD DHCT guidelines for the year. There are some other properties that need to do this, but by special permit or comprehensive permit, they pay a consultant to do it and report back to
And then
DHCD.
submit the paperwork.
The suggestion is that the trust take over this responsibility as our overall monitoring, consistent
Yep.
with the DHCD list.
And if workload becomes too high, we can always, once again,
Tap a consultant.
outsource it,
Yeah.
but at least we're seeing all the paperwork come through us.
This would be like a standard agenda item a certain time of year, right? Like we
Right.
Yeah.
review the list, we'd review
Yeah.
the rents, and we'd be like, okay, yes, yes, no, okay, yes,
Yeah,
and okay.
yeah. And the feeling is that the fact that we would deal with this in public meeting also helps with accountability
Right.
Yep.
and confidence.
And it sort of goes very much along the validation of the
Yeah.
SHI list from DHCD. They sort of all come together. So that way, you know, you can have one major sheet that says, here's every property, here's, you know, the number of units, here's our inventory, here's who is monitoring rents, you know, where they're rental units, et cetera.
Okay, so the last item is there are other rights of first refusal. So the town has rights of first refusal for purchasing other properties for a variety of reasons. One example is if a piece of property is under a Chapter 61 agricultural restriction and it's sold or the owners want to release that restriction, the town gets a right of first refusal. Currently, by policy, the select board goes out to many departments in the Recreation Commission, Open Space, Walkup Robinson Trust is asked, DPW, et cetera, schools. The suggestion is that the select board update its policy to include the trust. So that properties coming so any property that the town has a right of first refusal, the trust would have a chance to say, yes, we think the town should exercise that because the trust would like the property, and why, and make the case. It doesn't guarantee the select board would do that, but it involves us in the process.
Sounds great.
Sounds like the right thing to do.
Okay.
So we need a motion?
Well,
I move.
We
I move
can-
the chair and/or his designee be instructed to go forward with the changes that are articulated, working with the town manager and appropriate town government officials to accomplish the results.
the other right, regarding the right,
No,
rights
all
of,
of the articulated, all the things articulated in the proposal,
okay,
with the
I
understanding
second.
that if any changes to the I forgot what you call our legal existence.
Declaration of
The
trust.
declaration of
Declaration of
trust.
trust, any changes to the declaration of trust be brought to the housing trust for approval before being executed.
Well, yeah, we actually have
we-
to do that.
we
So
would have to
I'd
do it.
simplify the motion that the chair designee proceed working with town officials to make the proposed changes.
Super.
Fantastic.
and, you know, per the,
For this proposal.
Right.
per the expanding role and proposals of the trust for the town,
Yep,
dated June 5th,
And
2023.
the proposal will be rolled into the minutes of the meeting and become part of the public official record.
yep,
Yep.
yep, yep. Okay,
All right, so you.
I'll second that. Yep.
it's been seconded.
Any discussion? Nancy?
No discussion, I approve.
Okay, roll call vote.
Roush, yes?
Bain, yes.
Storm,
Armitage,
yes.
yes.
And Edinburgh, yes. Just try and keep up with the notes here.
Okay.
So the motion passes
You did great.
5-0, 5 being present. Okay, I believe Peter Glenn from Westborough High School is trying to join the meeting, but he's
Okay.
not in yet. So do you want to do a quick
We'll-
update on the RFP?
Yeah, why don't we do
Just to
that?
keep us-
Basically, the RFP, we have posted the responses to all questions, including the asbestos report, which is included in the packet that Alan sent out. There was asbestos, I think, as we said in one of our last meetings. And tomorrow is the deadline for our receipt of responses to the RFP. I assume Schwab will receive those, keep them secured.
So they're due by
that-
11 a.m. tomorrow.
Yeah, is it 11?
Yeah,
Okay.
so at 11 o'clock, the ones we have should be here, and we can make arrangements to distribute the copies.
Right.
Should
So,
we just be waiting at her desk and be like, ooh?
We could.
no,
We could.
we'll make sure we
hungry.
have them all. We will then,
Very exciting. Okay.
I will be in touch with her.
Okay.
And although she is on vacation until next week sometime.
Yeah, so they'll arrive, we'll have to go fetch them
Fetch them or have somebody fetch them
and, yeah,
and secure them
and just distribute them.
and then, yeah. they
I'll
can-
drive around everyone's home and hand it to
You
you.
will? Okay. I move
this is a
that,
lot of work.
Alan, that we
We'll get it out.
purchase, that we appropriate amount of funds for Alan to buy a postal worker's hat.
No, okay.
No.
Anyway.
I think,
But it's easy enough to just pick them up in town hall.
Yeah, well, we can pick them up.
Somebody, you know,
We'll just,
Yeah, but
we'll get
what-
them moved to the town
Give
manager's
them the
office.
sealer or something.
and I think yeah, maybe what we can do is follow this meeting. I can coordinate with Sheila because we do want to have a sign-out sheet for each,
Yes.
Just to know who's.
you know,
Yeah.
so that we know
Somebody got the copy.
which trustee
At some point-
received which
Copy.
copy.
At some point, we'll need to do a bid compare.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the next step would be to come up with well, it really exists by the structure, I can pull it together, but come up with a rubric.
Yep.
When we read and evaluate the bids, we do not compare one bid to another. We compare each bid independently to the scoring that we came up with the RFP, and then we can collect those and assimilate, and then have a discussion based on,
Create a,
you know, then we can talk about why we feel certain bids are stronger or weaker in certain aspects, and, you know, reach the consensus, so.
that's
Okay.
the reason that we get them individually,
Yeah.
can review them, and, you know, come up with our ideas of various
I'm
ways.
sure that we'll all have questions also. At least my experience.
Right, and we will probably then have,
Proposals you get are-
we'll
you
get
always
those
usually
together.
have questions.
Yep.
What's that mean, or?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and I'll be, for questions that may come up, I will be the,
Feed them to you.
Yep.
feed them to me,
Those-
copy
with those-
shop.
Yeah, copy shop, but don't copy the rest of the trust.
No, don't
Yeah.
copy the rest of the trust. Just myself and Shab will then combine those, and as we get, you know, we see that, oh yeah, there's some common questions, or we'll try to do our best to
Answer.
get generalized responses, you know, if it's a.
Okay. And we do, per the process, have the right to ask individual bidders specific questions
Oh,
on the
yeah,
bid, so we
yeah, yeah.
can do that.
But I assume we ought to go back through Shab to do that, just so she's in the loop.
Yes, we should definitely.
Yeah,
and
she'll-
make
she
sure
can
that we're
assist.
doing it
She can
properly.
assist with that.
Yep.
Okay. We have Westborough?
Not yet.
High school yet? Okay, we'll keep moving on. So, you know, over the next, hopefully, week, you will be getting information and on, you know, the RFPs. Okay, Rogers Road. Hank?
Two things I think have happened since the last meeting. First one is pretty straightforward. I toured the facility with Linda, who, by the way, has retired effective
Yeah.
1st of June. Toured the facility with the building inspector and a fire prevention person from the fire department to get some feedback on what the issues might be involved in permitting and putting a lift in the building. And there is a location where a lift could be put in. It requires some renovation. Two pieces of feedback. One is that we need to get an architect engineer to do a structural evaluation and to do at least schematic plans for how the lift would be put in there. The fire department also said, hey, we need to revise, update the emergency evacuation plan to confirm what the conditions would be and what, really to confirm what kind of mobility impaired folks might be possible to put on the second floor, and to confirm that we have the ability to evacuate and to do in the event of emergencies.
Are you saying who is capable of being put on second floor and still meet
What the
exits from
what
the
the guideline-
second versus first?
What the guidelines would be for who and how many and where on the second floor, and what kind, what level of mobility impairments might be appropriate to be up there, okay?
Okay. Now, would that be, putting that, that report together, wouldn't that be the
This is-
WHA?
Yeah, this is really falls under the the responsibility of the WHA. The trust can assist in
I
advocating.
understand, but the
for
housing
funds.
authority has to do both of these, it was their
Right.
project, right? So
Right.
we're just gonna assist, but we also had the conversation with the fire prevention folks and about the need, the requirement and/or need for sprinklers. They're quite clear that they believe there's a need for sprinklers, but they were not clear about whether at this point it's a requirement. We put together an evacuation plan and getting some architect, engineer, structural work done would enable that conversation to come to closure. So to me, if the housing authority wants to proceed, the next step is that they need to get some consultants to do this work for them. And my question to the trust is, are we willing to fund the consulting activity to go through those kinds of steps, or is that gonna have to be their funding?
I don't believe it would fall under preservation of
Right.
affordable housing.
Okay,
The sprinklers might,
well,
what Linda was,
I'm not talking about the
But
work.
do we
now.
have the name of
I'm
the?
not talking about the
no,
work.
no,
I'm
but
talking
even,
about
well, anything related to the
hiring-
project would
hiring
be,
consultants, 'cause
Whoa,
the-
whoa, 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 one at a time.
no, but
Hank?
hiring the consultant is considered work on the project.
That's fine.
So wouldn't necessarily cover it. And I know that I had helped Linda connect, we would need to redo it now that our representation has changed, but
Mike Moore from-
funding these through earmarks.
I understand. My understanding is that to have the conversation about earmarks, you need to at least have,
A rough order of magnitude.
well, you need to have some kind of,
Right.
you need to be able to show, hey, it is feasible to do this. It will solve a problem, and you have a source of bids or costs. And we have that for the lift itself. We don't have it for the rest of the things. And it's not clear. Again, I mean, at this point in time, they should not be putting mobility impaired people on the second floor.
Right.
It's not clear how many or what levels of mobility impairment the lift is capable of servicing and meet the needs of an emergency evacuation.
And whether the
Right, right.
lift would even
This is-
want to be used in an emergency.
Well,
I thought it was primarily
yeah,
if
well,
for,
again, let's say you're in a wheelchair.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
on the
Right.
second floor.
No,
Yes.
You can't get down the stairs.
right, that's your
So-
only
So,
option.
you know, if you're gonna put people, if we were to do that, we would have to have have a clarity on how we're gonna get those folks evacuated, how
Right.
long it will take.
This
Again,
is,
and I
Okay.
don't believe the current evacuation plan covers that.
Right.
I believe it's for people, it's not, but again, what we need here is, hey, it has to be, the funding of this has to be the responsibility of the housing authority. I will pass that message back.
What's the name of the new director, just for,
Kathy
Kathy,
Valent,
K or?
with C. And the last name is Valent, VAILLANT, I think.
V-A-I-L-L-A-N-T, Kathy Valent.
Yeah.
VAIL,
VAILLANT.
A-N-T.
I'm sorry, let me look at your thing. V-A or E?
A,
A. I-L-L.
A-N-T.
A-N-T. Got it.
And again, we'll pass that message back. And
Right. To the extent that we can reach out, it would be, I think it would be beneficial, and I don't know if you know Mike Moore through our, through town government, since we would probably go to him as our senator to do earmarks once we have some of this.
yeah, I would want, I'm happy to facilitate that. I would want to hear from the director or the board of the housing authority that they are interested in pursuing earmarks before we start down that path
Okay.
again.
Yep. The second piece is that, we did meet with Maureen Johnson, who's is a new board member. Maureen and
Joan
Joan
Pavolis.
Pavolis were identified by the board to meet, to work with Kate and myself to kind of partner in seeing what we can do on both this mobility improvements on the existing building and expansion of the facilities, taking advantage of the available land that we have. And Joan was not able to make the meeting. We did spend a good hour with Maureen, bringing her, sharing information, what she knows about the housing authority and what its goals and objectives are and where it's going from the perspective of the board. She was anointed as the board's representative to work with us, along with Joan. Kate and I filled them in on, all the background of where we've got to, and kind of came away saying we need to meet again, but in the meantime, Maureen is gonna spend some time looking at the things we've done and talking with the other board members as to what would they, how would they like to proceed from here. And I would expect we'll go back to Maureen and suggest she needs to get a motion of the board that they want some help reaching out on this lift thing, on this mobility proposal. She wants us to help her reach out to Senator Moore.
I'll just comment that Maureen was very receptive to working with us and really wants to move forward as a collaboration in terms of, whatever that means, but increasing affordable housing within Westborough. So understanding that Rogers Road has a parcel of land that potentially could be developed, very interested in exploring that, very receptive to that.
Let's separate the existing housing at 2 Rogers and whatever needs to be fixed up there versus the property. So
Right,
what was
so-
the discussion?
Well,
Let's just talk
you
about the
can't
discussion.
separate the pieces. I mean, Rogers Road is now almost is around the neighborhood of 30 years old.
They're separate projects.
Oh, they're separate projects,
Right.
but in terms of the housing authority looking at what its future looks like and where they want to go and what they want to do, you've got to have conversations. You've got to be willing
No, understood.
to blend the
Okay. Yeah.
conversations.
Okay.
When it goes to projects, that's a separate issue, right? But so we did talk about, one of these, somewhere in the next years, they're going to have to renovate Rogers Road and probably some other properties that they own. And they don't quite have a clear picture of how they will do that. Because it's very difficult to do major renovations of a building while it's full of, while people are living there, yeah?
Mhm.
So that's another consideration that Maureen is wrestling with and that the board will probably have to wrestle with.
But I think they see the opportunity with the Housing Trust that if we could partner to build more affordable housing, there's opportunity to move the folks who are currently residing in Westborough affordable housing or housing authority property to move into new units that we create and then renovate old housing authority buildings.
Okay.
So I think that's the way to their heart, I think, is that through that process. And that's why I think Hank is saying you can't really separate the two.
Right.
Because to them, the property, the parcel, and this is my understanding, okay? The parcel at Rogers Road is, yes, it's there, but they're saying we have existing units that really need a lot of repair. And we have people who are living in these existing units that it is, it's not meeting their needs. We have mobility issues and all of these things. So kind of looking at, it's a both and situation here. And so that's, I think, what Hank is
Okay.
trying to get at.
Yeah, and it's a resource issue, right?
They don't have any.
They don't have people or funds
Yeah.
Right.
to deal with these kinds of issues.
They also, Maureen brought up a good point yesterday too, or a question really, because it was unclear as to the physical number of units that the housing authority oversees is somewhat monitored by the state. And so if they were to add more units, so say we were to build a 40-unit property on Rogers Road, if that adds to their overall inventory, that might bump them into a different housing authority category from the state's perspective. And so there might be some limitations there. So also in terms of where the state, and Hank has a lot more information about this, is, moving away from municipal owned or municipal development, and moving more to private development. Thinking about what are the options for the parcel at Rogers Road. Does the housing authority want to partner with us to build that and then take ownership of that in terms of its continued maintenance and management? Or do they want to sell us the property? Is that a possibility, so that we can then issue it to a private developer? All of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot still to be determined there, but there's definitely receptiveness to moving forward.
Cool.
Do we see, and I don't want to spend too much more time on this, because we are running a little late, any issue of building, let's say, a new set of units, as we've been discussing, and moving existing people versus a lottery? Is there any conflict?
That's possible. If
I
it's all
believe
part of a
that
defined
can be
project.
done under the, you have to check with DHCD because they have.
Right.
Right.
But when you have units to become available for occupancy, there is a waiting list process.
Yeah.
If you had an agreement with, again,
It all comes down to what's
Probably not gonna
negotiated.
accomplish
Yeah,
everything.
if you.
There are other affordable housing developments where, they
Right.
built a new
Done
phase,
that, right.
and existing residents moved into the new
Phase.
phase, they renovated, and in some cases, they then moved back.
I mean, based on,
But- or they
based on
switch.
conversations that we've had with the Acton Housing Authority Executive Director,
Yeah,
you're not going to get through these regulatory oversight concerns without help from a consultant.
okay.
Okay.
It's
All
very,
right.
Okay,
even
Peter
getting-
Glenn's here.
Right.
That's it.
Okay, why don't we, I think we've covered that. Thank you very much for your meetings and, continued involvement in that. Why don't we now move to, we have a proposal for a new logo
Yeah.
design, and we'd like to, who do we have on?
Okay, So joining us is Peter Glenn from
Peter, welcome, Peter.
Westborough High School.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Okay, Peter, my name is Ed Bain. I'm chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. To my left, your right, is Hank Roush, who's vice chair. Alan Edinburgh, who's our secretary, but also a select board member, and Kate Storm is trustee, and also on the remote is Nancy Armitage, another trustee. So, how do we want to go through this? Has everybody had a chance to look at the
So,
designs that
so,
Alan sent out?
yep, so just for the viewing public as well, trustees, I had sent, this project started meeting with Mr. Glenn and Mr. Martin of the high school, who work with students in the design program, who are fabulous graphic designers, as we'll see in a moment. And so I've talked about the theme, the meaning behind the logo, what we're looking for, what we liked about the royalty-free logo we've been using, what, we want to sort of express differently. And they produced a number of different concepts, 6 concepts, 3 or 4 different themes behind it. I then had a meeting with Mr. Glenn and Mr. Martin and provided some feedback. They went back with the students, worked with them, and came up with the final designs in the packet. So, Peter, I don't know, do you want me to pull up and walk through, spend just a minute or two walking through the original workups? Or should we jump to the final logo and?
So I would be more than happy to take you through the original concepts, whichever you think suits us best.
Okay, let me,
We have about 10 minutes
yeah.
on our agenda.
So very quickly, we'll walk through the original concepts here.
Yep.
I think, Peter, you can see them on your screen?
Looks perfect. Is my audio okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, we had chatted about, I'll just jump to it because I know time is of the essence here. Thank you, by the way, for letting me jump on and join you. So we had talked about the original royalty-free logo, kind of working to expand that. One of our concepts was expanding past what looked like mainly single-family homes on the original logo and kind of incorporating some imagery that was a little more, well-rounded in terms of housing styles. So this, I think, was kind of our base concept where we wanted to, incorporate Westborough and kind of work some of the roof line around the text, all the while, again, kind of expanding on a variety of housing options. If we scroll down quickly, we had explored this concept a little bit, which up until now we had we liked collectively, just thought it may be a little bit industrial, a little bit more urban looking, a little more I don't know, a little like we said, a little potentially too industrial. And again, we can pull any elements from any of these if we wanted to kind of merge some ideas together. Concepts 4 and 5, if I remember correctly, we were excited about the illustrated look, but might have been a little too complicated for a logo. But definitely getting there a little bit more with the variety of buildings and things like that. We had discussed potentially using this for or a variation of this for future illustration. But our collective, what we had reached following our first couple meetings was kind of embellishing upon, the idea behind concept 1 or 6, which was having Westborough kind of be the focal text with the affordable housing text directly underneath, and then using that roof line and some of the subsequent spaces to showcase, kind of more fun elements like windows, doors, things of that nature.
So I'll pull up the final version.
Sure. Thank you, Alan. Awesome. So this then, this was a cleaned up version as is. If you said that, yep, I love it, looks great, this is ready to go, I would say there's still a few little lines I'd like to clean up, a few little areas that digitally I would just like to retouch and make even cleaner for you. But this was kind of our, second or third round edit on that original concept. We pulled the color palette from the existing logo to kind of keep things a little bit lighter and more engaging. And again, just kind of using the outline of those letters, which we squared off a little bit more, to have some fun and play with those roof lines a little bit. Did incorporate the tree just to kind of, there's a lot of Westborough that's wooded, and we have some really pretty forests and things like that, so wanted to incorporate that. We could also, if the window concepts are speaking to you, we can include those, we can move those around. I was even thinking about the potential of a little door maybe under the H, could be kind of fun if we need it, but this was kind of where we had landed, and I wanted to just provide you with 2 color schemes, one being a color palette pulled from that original logo, and then another that would just be maybe cleaner, maybe a 2-3 color scheme. And the actual Westborough Affordable Housing Trust text, we could also, that could stay as is, or we could experiment with a variety of typefaces as well. I was looking for something just kind of clean, sans serif, nothing too distracting, something that would complement that more graphic element up top.
Wow,
I love it.
I do.
well done.
I like the idea of the door. You know, you were saying about, like, when you saying the windows, they spoke to me. I thought the windows are great. I love the idea of a door in the H. I think I personally like it without all the colors. I think it's cleaner, but, you know, this is just everybody's opinion may be different, but these are fantastic. Items 1 through 6 were fantastic. I mean, you sure these are high school students?
It was a lot of fun getting them involved. And I had a blast giving them some insight into, this process and sharing the feedback with them. And they did a great job. All I did was help them clean up this digital image, but it's very much student driven, which was wonderful for us too.
I agree. I love the concept of the door. I like the colors. I think it represents diversity. So I really like the color. I can understand though sometimes you need just a 2-color or 1-color logo, but I particularly like the colors.
You can have, multiple imagery,
Yeah.
Right.
in logos. They should be, you don't want to have more than probably 2. But there are times when, because of the nature of the document or what have you, you may want to use one rather than the other.
Yeah, there are times where for certain things you need where you can't use 4-color. For certain,
Right.
if you're doing, if we're going to do certain imprints,
Right.
and
And it
things of that
varies,
nature,
like if
right.
you're going to a printer,
T-shirts.
they may,
Hats.
yes.
some printers will say, I can give you 2 colors.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I can give you a black and a blue.
I also really appreciate the inclusion of the tree. I agreed that the ones that were, I don't know how to describe them, but the ones that were more industrial, I loved those, but I don't think that they spoke to me quite as much. And I like the fact that you included a tree in this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know you have, my only concern is that yellow, I think it would be a little sharper, or if we didn't have the yellow background behind the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust,
The words?
fonts at the bottom, just not have the yellow there. Having it, you use it as a framing color. On the others, I don't know if, it's hard to see sometimes here, but I would go with a non-yellow, not use the yellow as the background for the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, just so that that pops a little bit more, and you reduce the color, and use either a black, if you do need an outline, although I realize maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's sort of lost. It's hard to see.
Yeah.
It does show up, obviously, in the windows.
Yeah. I was actually thinking that the yellow behind the text should be solid and not
Yeah.
just a shadow,
Yeah.
because the little bits of white, between the words.
It's distracting.
I see
Is there,
now.
and just sort of round it off so that
It's
the
like a
yellow is
box.
almost like the sidewalk
Yes.
with the with the wording on it.
Sure. Now that this is digitized, I could even, with very little issue, could very easily send you a version where that yellow is one version where maybe the yellow is eliminated around the text, and another where we have a solid bar as opposed to kind of hugging the outline there, the contour. So could send you a couple versions there to
great.
check out too. That's super easy, super easy.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps maybe the top with the multicolors, we can do the yellow as a sidewalk concept idea. You know, but I agree with Alan, maybe solid
Yep.
piece, a solid bar.
Yeah,
And
let's
then
take,
the
let's take those
bottom,
options.
just leave it with non-yellow, you know, that would be the simplistic one.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure,
Maybe
no
we
problem at all.
talked about keeping the yellow highlight around the word. It's just the words Westborough Affordable Housing Trust that have no highlight.
Right.
No highlight
Right.
or solid, right.
Yeah.
in the
I
bottom.
agree with Ed. I don't like highlighting of letters. You know, one is, the graphic design is beautiful, but I do agree, the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, I don't think it should have a background. Although it still have a yellow line above it, and that can be the sidewalk, I think, when you see it without the highlight. Yeah, because there is a yellow line surrounding the graphic, and then it dropped, then also the words are highlighted. So I think if we took the highlight off, you'd still have that, if you maybe made the line thicker, you'd still have the sidewalk.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, Nancy.
Well, either one of them. So the entire logo is surrounded in yellow. Forget the wording below. There is a yellow line.
Right.
Just underscoring. That yellow line, I think, should stay. But I agree with you, Ed, that the highlighting under the words Westborough Affordable Housing Trust text, I think it distracts from, is a little distracting.
Okay.
Does
So,
that make sense?
yeah, I mean, I guess I'd be interested from Peter seeing one where there's no yellow highlighting around the text and one where it's solid.
Yeah.
And we can just look and make a decision at that
Yeah.
point.
Sounds good.
Or choose both. I
Yeah.
mean,
And then adding a door in the H
yeah.
would be cool.
I like the door. I'm big on the door.
Okay. And any other final comments? I know
I think that's our next go-around.
Peter has to get to class.
Yeah.
10:10, right? Or 10:11?
But please tell the students, you know,
Please.
thank them, and that we're, you know, down to, you know, some of our final, you know, points. And
Very
that's
well
good.
done, a great set of options.
Nicely.
Amazing. Well, thank you, thank you. I honestly, I've been taking notes. I can, with these, send you some options, regarding the yellow and give you several options to take a look at. I could even, without exaggeration, I could have those to you by this afternoon. So, yep, here they come, but, thank you so much for letting me jump in here. Sorry about the harsh lighting behind me. I'm
no.
blessed a room of windows, but,
Don't worry.
so, thank you. I look forward to, seeing where we go from here, and I'll send you those shortly, some options for you.
Great.
Okay, great. Thank
Hey,
you so
Peter,
much.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank you
great
very
day.
much.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay, great. That was productive, and let's see how we're doing on time.
I can be very quick on the first-time
the,
homebuyers program, and then can we do High Street?
Sure. Let's switch those. We'll do the first-time homebuyers.
Okay, so, first-time homebuyers program got, we had questions about, what would be necessary if we were also, in addition to residents, offer it to town employees.
Right.
And we got some initial advice related to ethics from town council on that. It should be doable, but the next step is we need to do a bit of a write-up and send it to the Ethics Commission. The issue is that town employees can't use their position for personal gain.
Right.
So even though none of the employees who would be eligible work for the trust, there might need to be a declaration. If we open it up to town employees, then there might need just to be a disclosure made as part of the process. So we'll find out what's necessary there. And then I've reached out to MHP and waiting to hear back on sample documents that they're using for their first-time homebuyers program as a template so we can understand the legal agreements and things of that nature.
And who did that go to?
That went to Shelley.
To
at
Shelley,
M-
at MHP, at
Yeah.
Mass Housing
Partnership,
Partnership.
our hero.
We just, you know, for the large group of listening
Yeah.
public, we always like to spell out the acronyms.
Yeah. So with,
Okay.
so High Street Extension, we've talked about the project and the concept on a couple of occasions, and what I'd like is for the trust's agreement that we go to the select board and ask for permission to assess the property.
Right. And there's
and-
some,
and I've
once
got-
again,
I've got a quick
sent
slide
out
deck.
a slide deck
Right.
that has incorporated, some details, concepts, possibilities,
Can you
et
remind me
cetera.
who owns High Street Extension right now?
It is,
Or who's,
it's under the auspices of the select board.
okay.
Yeah, the town owns it.
Right.
Yep.
Town owns it, and the town owns it, and it's under the control of the select board, not open space, not recreation, et cetera.
So this is really, you're asking, this is the next step to make
Yeah.
sure that this is a viable,
Right.
could be a viable
so ju-
development site.
And so just very quickly for the record, we present our mission, the map of the property, and talk about the nature of the property. These ortho maps aren't always exact to the
Right.
satellite image there, but it's rough approximation. So there is, that red hash mark is DEP swamp, deciduous, evidently. So it is considered wetlands. We would talk about the concept we have for the property, which is garden-style bungalows with common green space, common septic to avoid wastewater limitations, off-street parking for residents and grass.
I thought the property had some bump out or something we had
It
talked about.
does, it's like a trapezoid.
So,
So if you look, at the map there, right?
Yeah, and,
But in the concept, we're not using the full.
I see, okay, you're saying.
So we would limit the
limit
development
to that.
to that
and then we
square.
can use that for
That, this could be
septic.
open space or septic
or,
field, right. The septic could also be in the green space between the units. It all depends how it
Keeps the grass green
fits.
if
Yeah,
you do that.
I guess so. So we'd present the concept that we'd be doing this as a friendly 40B.
Yep.
So it would be SHI affordable in perpetuity. It could be either condominium or rental, and that it's consistent with the master plan goals. I will also mention that the senior needs assessment talks about the need for small housing, own or rental for senior citizens looking to downsize but stay in town. And so these could also meet that goal. We could explore age restriction on some of the units to facilitate that as well. We present the concept. This is one of the samples that MCO Housing shared with us for
Yes.
this type of development. I thought it would be good to show the visual appeal of the unit, a sample layout. This is one of the one-story units.
Yep.
He has two-story as well. And then our ask is permission to assess feasibility, which we would survey and mark the property. We need to do a percolation test to test the viability of septic
Right.
on the property and work with conservation on environmental impact and what that might allow for layout of the property and use of the property.
All right.
and-
So I
and-
assume this would be a presentation before the select board at a upcoming meeting to be scheduled.
Yeah,
And I would suggest that Hank, since he was the one that first identified this property, that maybe you and he
I can be there.
be there, huh?
I can be there.
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
because I'd like to recognize, the people that sort of, brought up the saying, oh, we might have an opportunity here.
and there has been at times some other interest in the property.
Right.
By the town, so I think we make it very clear, we're not asking for any commitment.
No, all we're asking
But-
for is permission to access the property.
Access and
perk test.
perk testing's a little invasive, so we want permission for that.
Again, we want permission to do that, we're not agreeing to do that yet. Again, this is it's a very difficult site to develop. There's a very substantial cavity in the middle of it.
Yes.
That's gonna have to be filled. I don't really have a good understanding of what you do to fill that so that you can build on top of it.
And crush stone so that it perks well.
Well, no, I mean, I think
Yeah.
The point is, I guess my point is, and the point of asking now is that we have a concept, we want to assess whether or not it's even viable to look at housing. If it is, we would want that to be one consideration.
Yeah, we want to learn what we have to do to get approval for a high-density cluster development.
Yes.
Right.
And, you know, we certainly need access. We'll probably need to do a bunch of these things. We'll probably need some engineering help.
Yep.
But all we're looking for is permission to get
Permission.
access, and just to put folks on notice that we are gonna be working with various boards, commissions, committees, staff, asking their assistance in helping us understand what it takes to make this concept viable.
Right.
Right.
You know, this is a chosen site, because you gotta pick somewhere.
It's
It
downtown,
may
it's
not
of
be the best place.
size.
I mean, Beach Street might be a better place to do something like this, but we don't know, Beach Street may or may not be available, so,
Right.
But even
yeah.
if
I mean, don't-
Beach
don't-
Street comes through, if this is viable,
right,
you know.
Don't get hung up on the particular site, because it's a very difficult site.
Well, no, but
Let me
part of,
just
excuse me,
finish.
let me
Let me
step
just
back. Okay,
finish.
go ahead, Ed. Sorry.
Let me just finish.
Yep.
It's possible that if we got Beach Street and we decide that this is doable, viable, doable, at whatever cost, et cetera, there may be some benefit in proposing both properties for development. We may be able to get a better, just say deal, negotiated price, just because we'd be able to put up more units, and that may be more attractive to a developer, but who knows? Those are all possibilities, but I don't think we need a motion. I think, Alan, if you can get it scheduled, and Hank, if you'd be
Sure, I'll
so
be-
gracious
I'll be glad to be
to
there.
assist Alan for the presentation and represent the trust at the same time, appreciate that. And then we can
Okay,
report
yeah.
back at our next meeting.
Sounds good.
Good? Okay, let's see, what do we got? Continued, moving on.
Enter into executive session.
So we've gone through all our standard things. I think we do need to move in, and we're right on, we're 2 minutes ahead of time, ahead of schedule, we do need to enter into executive session. And that's per Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate at 6 Beach Street in Westborough, Massachusetts. And we also, in addition, per MGL Chapter 38, Section 21A, subsection 7, to act under the authority of the Select Board to approve executive session minutes of June 2nd, 2023. That would be the 2 reasons of entering into executive sessions.
So moved, you make the declaration.
Seconded?
Hold on, before you second, you have to make the declaration that public comment would be disadvantaged to our negotiating.
Yes, there's, and the reason for going into executive session is that the public discussion of this would be non-advantageous to the work that we need to do regarding these issues,
Our bargaining position, have to say it, our negotiating.
our negotiating position.
Okay, now you can take the second.
Seconded.
Second by Armitage.
Okay. So roll call vote.
Roush, yes?
Bain, yes.
Armitage,
Storm, yes.
sorry, Armitage, yes. Oh, God, I'm talking over everybody, sorry.
I got you there third, Kate, yes, and Edinburgh, yes. So the motion to enter executive session passes 5-0, 5 being present.
Okay, so what we need to do is sign out, log out of this, Nancy, it's really, it's just Nancy out of this, and then join in. I want to make sure Westborough TV, first of all, thank you, Westborough TV, for recording this public session. And if you can give me a thumbs up that we are off the air.